Meeting, so I will get the meeting started. Call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Superintendent Hughes, if I can, I'd like to move to retain all current officers until the next organizational meeting.
So we have a motion by Mr. Campbell to skip the process of naming individual officers and to retain the officers as they exist today.
Support.
We have a motion by Mr. Campbell to retain officers as they exist today with a second by Mrs. Shaw. Is there any discussion on that?
Yeah, maybe I can start. So this started maybe over a month ago, 30, 45 days ago, when we were going to move the organizational meeting to January. And at that time, I asked if we could forego the organizational meeting now at this meeting, since we were going to do it again in 6 months. Just for time considerations, keeping the board as it is, and then whatever happens behind the curtain in central office, so that changes don't have to be made if there are changes to different positions on the board, just to keep things flowing in the direction I think we all want it to go for the district.
Any other conversations? Anybody have thoughts? No additional thoughts?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I appreciate the notion, Mr. Campbell, just to kind of keep things rolling. I did think about your suggestion, but I guess in good conscience, I have some concerns. I think, in many aspects, right, the officer roles, they're, other than maybe the president, is pretty much, symbolic, right? So there's not a lot that some of the officers do. It's something we deal with once a year. But I guess where I had the concern is I do think that anybody that is sitting as an officer sort of operates with some level of professional decorum. I think it's important that that person can work with the admin team, that person can work with the board members, that person represents the community, is an advocate for the community and the students. My concern is we don't have that in one situation. And I think, kind of like a tripod or a stool, right? If it's one or two of the legs are missing from it, it doesn't work well. So I think as a board, we need to consider taking action. I think in Hartland, we like to say, give to all, gains for all. I think there's certain individual that is more of a, works only with some members of the board, which, if you're one of those members, then that's great. I'm happy for you. But I think we need somebody that's willing to work with everyone. I know I can personally call all the officers with one exception, and, we can agree to disagree. It's very cordial, and I think we need to not necessarily turn a blind eye, and I think would try to address what I view as a need on this board. And I hope that, all of you will prefer to sort of face the issue head on. I don't want us to just kick the can down the road. I think, the board, we deserve better. Everyone out there deserves better. The students do better, or deserve better. So I'm hoping that all of you will support voting individually for the positions.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. Any other discussion?
I motion to amend that 3 of the 4 positions stay the same, but we vote on 1.
Support.
So Mr. Gogleski has amended the motion to vote for one particular position, hasn't been referenced yet, and to keep 3. Mr. Keller has supported that. Any other discussion on that one?
I'm looking to vote on the role of vice president.
All right. Any other discussions?
So right now, we're discussing the amendment.
The amendment only, yep. No other discussion on?
I do have something to say. One of the longtime criticisms of this board is the fact that for a long time now, it's always been perceived as very divided and such, and that's been a big concern not only of the community but the staff as well. Within the last year and a half, I have, and I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but I have developed really good communication with some of the other board members that used to be part of that perceived divide. And I think the communication on this board has been the best it's ever been since I've been on the board. And because of that, I just want to say that I'd like to continue those 3 positions, but one definitely needs to be voted on.
All right.
I'd just like to make one comment that from my perspective as president for the last year, I can echo what Glenn is saying, that I feel that communication across the board has been better. I feel like we've made pretty good strides with that, and I definitely feel that I can work with each of the officers as they stand currently. I think I have a good working relationship with them, and I think Greg, each of the officers, I think, hits a lot of the marks that you mentioned as well. I personally would be in support of retaining all 4 positions.
All right.
I'm not in support of retaining all 4 positions. I don't believe that just extending all these positions for another 6 months will ensure that we have the best person in each position, and that is ultimately what we were elected to do. Unfortunately, one of these officers, while serving in their official capacity as an officer, has repeatedly engaged in ad hominem attacks during deliberation instead of focusing on facts, data, or the merits of issues. And this approach in particular hinders the civil discourse that we need to advance the district goals and priorities that most of us share. Furthermore, over the past year, this individual has had ongoing communication breakdown with at least 3 sitting board members. So that means at least half of the board is unable to communicate with this person. Despite what many in the public think about us having a divided board, I can tell you personally, even though I have vehement disagreements with several people at this table, there are 5 of 6 fellow trustees that I have meaningful conversations with on a very regular basis. And we put aside personal differences to try and find solutions that are best for the district and for the students. However, there is one particular officer who I don't think I'm able to do that with, and again, there's other fellow board members who are unable to communicate. So therefore, I would urge the board to, I would support this amendment to continue with the 3 and vote on the 4th. Otherwise, I think if this amendment doesn't pass, I think it's necessary for us to conduct individual elections.
Okay, any other discussion? Going back to the amendment, Mr. Campbell, did you have another thought?
No, sir.
Okay. Going to the amendment first, and that is to place 3 of the members, but not the VP. We'll start with Mr. Gogolewski.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Ms. Shaw.
Yes.
Ms. Coleman.
Yes, I'm sorry, no.
No. Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Ms. Custodio.
Yes.
All right, that motion passes. So 6-1. So it seems like the pertinent thing to do in this case is that the president, well, we have to go back. No, We have to go to the original amendment because, what's that?
You have to go to the original motion.
The original motion. So the original motion is to place all 4 members back into the seats that they're currently at until such a time as January rolls around. And if the key is the bylaw change later on that we'll get to actually passes.
Right.
Okay, so, all right. So, go.
Just to clarify, I think it's, I see the look on Greg's face. I think it's the original motion as amended.
As
So
amended.
because the amendment passed, so it's the original emotion.
The original motion as amended to place all positions but the VP and do a separate vote on the VP. Is that correct? All right, let's start with Mr. Gogolewski. You're voting on the original motion with the amendment accepted to have a vote on the VP position only.
Yes, on the VP position only, yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Ms. Shaw,
Yes.
Ms. Coleman,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Scott,
Yes.
Ms. Custodio.
Yes.
That motion passes. I turn the gavel over to President Coleman, who will,
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hughes, for fielding that. All right, so we will not be voting on president, secretary, or treasurer. I thank you all for your support for president. I'd like to take nominations for the office of vice president.
I'd like to nominate Jeff Scott.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Jeff Scott has been nominated by Mr. Keller, seconded by Mr. Gogolewski. Any other nominations for vice president?
Nominate Cindy Shaw.
Thank you. Ms. Cindy Shaw has been nominated by Mr. Campbell, and I will second that. Any other nominations? Okay, taking them in the order that they are nominated, first up is Mr. Scott. Mr. Gogolewski.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
No.
Mrs. Shaw.
No.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Ms. Custodio.
No.
I'm a no. Motion does not carry. Next up is Mrs. Shaw for the office of Vice President. Mr. Gogolewski.
No.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw.
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
No.
Mr. Scott.
No.
Ms. Custodio.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Motion carries. So just reiterating then, I am returning or maintaining the office of president. Likewise for Mrs. Shaw as vice president, Mr. Keller as treasurer, and Mr. Campbell as secretary. Moving on with the agenda, item 1C, approval of agenda and items for discussion.
I move that the agenda for the July 20th, 2026 organizational meeting be approved.
Support.
A motion by Mrs. Shaw, supported by Mr. Campbell. Any discussion on the motion?
Just a quick comment. I know I reached out to President Coleman about some potential changes of 0172, which is the legal policy for those following along. After some discussion, I think we kind of mutually agreed that it was maybe beneficial in this case, since the proposed change is more of a technicality, since we are potentially voting on changing the organizational meeting from July to January, and this was just sort of cleaning that up as a peripheral policy. I think I can agree that as long as we're going to look at it at a later date, I'm comfortable with that, and so I don't need to motion to add it to the agenda as a discussion item. We'll hold off.
Perfect, thanks. Yeah, based on my discussion with you and a couple of other ideas that have been brought forward, I've already got a list of, I think, 4 policies, including that one, that we will be carrying and putting on the agenda for the next policy committee. Any other discussion items or discussion for the agenda items and items for discussion? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Gogoleski?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Scott? Yes. Ms. Custodio?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Motion carries. Item 1D, consent agenda.
I move that the consent agenda for the July 20th, 2026 organizational meeting be approved.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Shaw, supported by Mr. Campbell, consent agenda. Any discussion on the motion?
Is there a reason the policy meeting minutes are not in here?
I don't think we've ever done policy, committee meeting minute approvals. I feel like we've brought this up before, but I don't think that has been,
I thought legal said we should be doing that.
I don't recall. My apologies. But we can bring them forward to the next meeting. I can reconfirm with Drew.
Okay, yeah, I thought there was some indication we should be approving those.
It's possible. I know we have discussed it before, but my apologies. Committee, just making that note. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Okay, hearing none. This is motion by Mrs. Shaw, supported by Mr. Campbell. Consent agenda. Mr. Gogoleski?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Ms. Custodio?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Motion carries. Before I hand it over to Mr. Hughes for the superintendent's report, I wanted to just give a little brief welcome to Dr. Trish Pelkey, who this is her first meeting here at the board table, so welcome tonight. You are obviously our new Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction. She comes to us from Howell Schools, and we are super glad to have her here with us as part of the Hartland team. I know several of our board members have already booked time on your calendar and gotten to know you just at least a little bit and introduced themselves. And if you haven't done that yet, I encourage you to do so. It's time well spent for sure. So I just wanted to say welcome. Thanks for being here. Mr. Hughes.
You stole my thunder. That's all right.
My bad.
Dr. Pelkey has been with us since the first. She also spent a number of days with us when Mr. Minsker was still here. She obviously exudes air of confidence. She's done a great job. I haven't had a lot of mentorship with her because she's like, yeah, I got this. Yep, I got this. I think you've been spending most of your time with the consolidated application, which is a bear in and of itself. So we appreciate you, and every day she comes to work with a smile on her face and ready to rock and roll. So it's good to have you at the table. Absolutely. Back to school items, just want to make sure that I noted to the board, take a look at your information. We have district breakfast on August 17th at the high school. I believe breakfast is served at 7:30. The program will start at 8. If you're going to attend, please let me know, just so I make sure that I introduce you to our staff at the breakfast. I think I have had one person reach out to me so far, one board member saying that they shall be there. So please let me know. I'd appreciate that. And then, of course, the first day of school on Wednesday, the 19th. I talked to transportation today. They feel really confident that routing is going along just swimmingly, and everything's doing good. Swimmingly, routing, hey, there you go. I guess that's my own little inside joke. So, all is well in transportation as we move forward and get ready for the new year. Buildings are looking great. I will tell you that Mrs. Becky Wallace, our new Director of Operations, has been fantastic in her short time at the helm. Very quick to respond to the needs and understands the importance of making sure that we're trying to find a reasonable solution for all requests. Buildings are looking good. Most buildings are pretty much cleaned and done. And so I really appreciate her and her team for the work that they're doing, getting us prepared for the new school year. And an update also in community ed with Ms. Rachel Wright for the board. She, again, has jumped in, making connections, building relationships, doing a great job as our new community ed director. Today, she was at the foundation meetings this morning. Great conversations, and we really appreciate her and what she's doing in her department. Introduction to new hires. We have 2 new tonight, and then we have one that we've already hired, but we'll introduce them to you. So let's start with Jeff Oran, new teacher at the high school. Mr. Wheeler, why don't you bring Jeff up?
All right, good evening, everybody. As representative of the high school admin team, I'm very, very happy to introduce Jeff Horan. Jeff has been with us as a long-term sub for a couple years. I've heard Mr. Fitzgerald call him our jack of all trades, and he really has been. He helped out with computer science, he helped out with special ed, he helped out with mathematics, he helped out with marketing. Did I miss any, Jeff? Personal finance. He really was our jack of all trades, but you could tell that even in his short-term roles, he was somebody who was super important to our building. He has a great rapport with the kids, very good understanding of the subject matter, especially math. And that's what we're hiring Jeff in to teach full-time now is math. He's going to do a great job. Like I said, he makes relationships with kids, but he also makes relationships with the staff, the admin team, and he's going to be doing a little bit of coaching for our soccer team this fall as well. So he's jumping in head first. So Jeff, if you'd like to say a couple words.
Thank you, JD. Really, I just want to say I'm really excited, really honored to be a part of Hartland Consolidated Schools in an official capacity. Like you said, I've been here for a couple of years and have really loved being at the high school, getting to know the staff, getting to know the students, and I'm just excited to finally kind of step in, in the official role and get started. I'm probably, maybe one of the few teachers that is really looking forward to August 19th. They can't get here fast enough. So just, again, honored and really looking forward to it. So thank you.
Next, we have Creekside Elementary new hire in special ed, Hannah Plowski, and Mr. Adrian Dean, our Director of Special Ed, will introduce Hannah.
It is my honor to introduce Hannah Plowski. Hannah, like Chuck was saying, is going to be resource room teacher at Creekside. She comes to us with 5 years experience, most recently from Holly, and when I was talking to her, now former principal, but he had great things to say about her, great recommendations. And when we interviewed Hannah, she just knocked it out of the park. It was one of those interviews where we're like, do not let her get out of the parking lot. We got to have her. So it's great having her. She has all the skills and knowledge and background and leadership capabilities as well. So very impressed with her interview. So welcome, join me in welcoming Hannah.
I just want to say thank you guys so much to take a little bit of time out of your agenda for us new hires. I appreciate that. And I'm just really eager to have a good school year and jump into things. So thank you.
Mr. Howerton, if you would come up with Lydia Barska. Lydia was hired at a former meeting, and she had some family things to take care of. So, Tony, if you'd introduce Lydia to us.
Yeah, I'm going to sound a lot like Mr. Dean. Good evening, everybody. Lydia, we interviewed back in May, and she's been in Florida for several years teaching. She was a lead teacher in an ASD classroom, self-contained, for a few years. The last few years, she's been at Western Pines Community Middle School in West Palm Beach, Florida, as a push-in special education teacher for math classrooms with thank you. ELA. And she's going to be working with our ELA 8th grade staff as they push in for our co-taught classrooms, as well as having a self-contained classroom for resource. Similar to, as Mr. Dean said, we interviewed Lydia, and she is originally from the Ukraine, and she talked a lot about how she had visited Michigan once and loved Lake Michigan. It reminded her of her home in Odessa, and just a great interview. And all 4 of my team members came down after the interview and were just like, gotta hire. I'm like, well, let's make some calls and let's do our due diligence. And talked to 5 different people she had worked with, administration, teachers, and just raved about Lydia. Just such a hard worker, great with the kids, connects with families and kids. One lady said she gives 110%. No, she gives 200%. She's amazing, great co-teacher. So we're very thrilled to have her at Hartland Middle School, Lydia Barska.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very honored and humbled by hearing all of these good words. I'm very proud to be here, not only as a future teacher, but as a parent. My son is going to attend 8th grade at Oar Creek, and actually he initiated all the move. He is dreaming on joining University of Michigan, so here we are. Thank you very much.
Lydia is also the first person I met that speaks 5 languages, so yeah.
Thank you. Thank you to our new hires. Community, just to let you know, we do have a couple more teaching slots open. So we are looking for a couple special ed teachers, one at the high school, one at Farms, and then we also are looking for a counselor, so at the middle school. So if you know anybody interested, please spread the word. Next, we'll bring up Mr. Hassler. Mr. Hassler is here tonight to talk about our spring highlights. And he has a special guest with him tonight as well. So
She'll be coming up shortly.
all right.
Again, thank you for having me here. I know one of my pillars with all my coaches is promotion, so I love being able to promote our student athletes and our sports. So I do thank you for this opportunity to be here. Let's see if I can move it over. It's not moving over here. Oh, there we go. Down. Spring athletics by the numbers. High school programs, we had 460 participants. 10th through 12th grade, there was 323. 137 ninth graders. We had varsity programs, we have 11. Middle school programs, we have 2, boys track, and then archery. Total teams, 23. For the middle school programs, we had 180 participants between our boys track team, girls track team, and our middle school archery program. You can see here, archery had a nice bump up from last year. Baseball, boys golf, consistent, boys lacrosse, girls lacrosse, girls soccer, softball, girls tennis, track with a nice increase there, and boys volleyball staying consistent. Excellence in the classroom. Again, this is one of the things that is another proud thing that we can all hang our hats on. Hartland Scholar Athlete Award winners. Again, this is first semester 3.0 GPA or higher for JV and varsity. 82% of our student athletes that play again in the spring had a GPA that was 3.0 or higher. The KLAA Scholar Athlete, which is varsity only, 77% of our kids had a 3.25 GPA above or higher. This does exclude freshman student athletes, which will have their chance coming up in the fall. But again, I think it's a testament to what our teachers are doing in the classroom, the great community support that we get, and obviously the student athletes that can blend their time in the classroom and on the field. And again, the spring gets tough because kids are getting out, so they do have commitments that they have to honor on the field and in the classroom. We had 38 members of the class of 2026 have committed to play athletics at the collegiate level, anywhere from Michigan State University, Michigan, Michigan Tech, Lansing Community College, Defiance, Trine University, Nova Southeastern. So we have a wide variety of our athletes that are going on to play college sports as well. One of the great things that I get to do in the spring is our senior athlete recognition ceremony. We have 3 awards, basically. The first one is the Hartland Scholar Athlete Award. This one goes to the top senior who's participated on a varsity sport with the top GPA. The female winner was Sylvia Rogers from cross country, who had a 4.3356, and also Andrew Kruger for football, who had a 4.3717. Hartland Teammate of the Year nominees. We had 4 nominees, and this is a coach-nominated award. And one of the great things about this award is that I have the coaches write up a little speech about each kid, and even if the student didn't win, it's always great when the parents reach out to have that kind of quote from their coach that they can use at their grad party and just to have and to hear the support that they get from their coaches. Ellie Behrman, volleyball, Reese Dunny, softball, Kate Gosselin, gymnastics, Ella Whitson, swim and dive. Male nominees were Dane Dunbar for wrestling, Patrick Marks III, football, wrestling, volleyball, and Zeke Macklin, swim and dive. Some really great candidates and really high character student athletes. The female teammate of the year went to Ellie Behrman for volleyball. Our Hartland male teammate of the year award went to Patrick Marks III. The third and final award goes to the 2026 Male and Female Athlete of the Year Award. Male Athlete of the Year nominees, all 3 were phenomenal candidates. Bodie Abbey, obviously 3-time state champion in wrestling. Dallas Korponic, 3-time state champion in wrestling. Parker Summan, football, basketball, Livingston County Player of the Year for basketball, 1,000-point scorer for Hartland basketball. Male Athlete of the Year was Bodie Abbey. Just a top-notch student athlete, does things right on and off the court, and I do believe he is now working for a realtor company in the area, so if you're looking for a house, I saw that and I was just amazed that someone that young and that ambitious, and with all that he's doing in wrestling, it's just another testament to what sports can do and what our great coaches are doing and what our teachers and staff are doing for these student athletes. The Female Athlete of the Year nominees, again, really strong candidates this year. Alexis Fundich for gymnastics, 2-time state champion, individual state champion. Eliana Newer, cross country and track, state qualifier for cross country, state champion for track. Claire Pilak, 2 times. They were the state finalists last year, Final Four this year for lacrosse, and she was a 2-time All-American for girls lacrosse. And I think will have eventually be in the MHSA record books for number of saves that she had over her career. The Female Athlete of the Year, which we'll be speaking to shortly, Eliana Newer for cross country and track. Choice 1 Athlete of the Year banquet used to be the state Athlete of the Year banquet. Again, 2 strong candidates. Eliana Newer was our Hartland female nominee. Personally, I think she would have won the overall, but we voted before the state championship. So I will say this with Eliana, and I'll speak to it a little bit more, just not only what she does on the cross-country course and on the track, but it's what she does off as a teammate is really impressive. Bodie Abbey was the winner of the Male Athlete of the Year for Choice 1 Athlete of the Year. Student achievement, student success for spring of 2026. Baseball, KLAA West Division champions and KLAA Conference champions. Boys golf, regional champions. That was one of 5 regional championships that we won this spring. They finished 8th in the state. They were team academic all-state. Boys lacrosse, KLAA West Division champions, KLAA Conference champions, regional champions, and they also had the Mishloa Sportsmanship Award, which is from the Officials Association. Girls lacrosse, regional champions and Final Four. Girls soccer, KLAA West Division, KLA Conference champions, district champions, regional champions, and Final Four. Boys volleyball, regional champions. Archery, national champion runner-up in the 3D and bullseye, and they were the world runner-up in 3D. Track and field, we had 6 individuals qualified for state, 1 individual state champion. First team all-state athletes, 1 baseball player, 1 boys golf, 2 boys lacrosse, 1 girls lacrosse, 1 girls track in 2 separate events. All-Americans, we had 1 boys lacrosse and 1 girls lacrosse that were All-Americans. Chasing titles, here we have the boys golf team with their regional trophy. We have the boys baseball team with their KLAA conference championship. Again, we have boys lacrosse with their regional championship and girls soccer with their regional championship at Clarkston. Girls lacrosse with their regional championship at Grand Blanc, and also boys volleyball also at Grand Blanc with their regional championship. The first year of MHSA sports, the boys volleyball team had a great run this year. Hartland Archery, this is their 2 trophies that they collected at the Nationals. Now I'd like to bring up Eliana Newer. The picture on the left you've probably seen. It's probably one of my favorite. And knowing the photographer who's at a lot of our games, Dan, I know he said it was one of his favorite photos that he was able to capture this year. I say it was a season for the ages. Just some background. Eliana broke the 800, 1600, 3200, 4x4, and 4x800 school records. So she's going to have her name up on the board, and I think those records are going to be up there for a very long time. Knowing Eliana, I'm sure she would want somebody to come in and take those, but I think that's going to be a very tough task. She had the second, she has the unofficial or official second fastest 1600 time in the county. Talking to her mom, she just went out to nationals this past summer and ran a 4:48, which would make her the fastest Livingston County 1600 meter runner. And I think she also PR'd in her 800 and her 3200 meter at that race out in Oregon. So she was out representing Hartland in Oregon. I got to see the track. It's a beautiful facility, and as a runner at Michigan State, I'm hoping that she'll get to go out there multiple times and compete at a very high level. And again, going back to the choice one, I remember sitting with her mom and talking about someone of this high level of talent. She gets to go, we have dual meets where you're running against, just a single opponent. A lot of times you're going to go into invitationals where you have a lot more competition, you're going to be pushed. Eliana was the first one to be one of those that would run an event to help others, to get them times to push them. So I think it goes to show that, again, even seeing her from cross-country season to track, throughout her 4 years, she's just been a phenomenal person, a phenomenal athlete, and an even better teammate in that process. Eliana Newer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for all the support from the communities and the family and friends. And I love that I've been able to be recognized through Hartland in so many ways for this season, and it exceeded my goals in every way possible. So it's been a really fun senior year. Thank you.
Just a wrap up of the whole year. We had 7 KLA league titles, 5 KLAA conference titles, 4 MHSA district titles, 7 MHSA regional titles, 4 top 8 MHSA finishes, 2 top 4 MHSA finishes, 1 MHSA state finalist, 6 state champions. That includes our MHSA state champion gymnastic team, our archery teams, and our figure skating as well. 11 individual state titles, from wrestling to archery to gymnastics to track, 2 national runners-up, 27 all-state first-team athletes, 1 world runner-up, 38 athletes to play at the next level, and 2 All-Americans. Overall, I think MLive does a ranking of, they take all the MHSA sports and your finishes, and I think out of the state of Michigan, we were ranked 13th. Now, that doesn't include some of our programs that excel very well outside of that, such as archery and figure skating too, which I think would really boost us as well. Roll the credits. It was a very wet spring, as many know, but we were able to, thanks to, again, a great facilities team, coaches that are getting out there working on fields, transportation, getting us to games, baseball and girls soccer districts we hosted. We hosted boys golf regionals, boys lacrosse regionals, and softball regionals. Our admin team is top-notch. James Fitzgerald, J.D. Wheeler, Jessica Gus, Patrick Borg. Jennifer Sog is my administrative assistant, goes above and beyond. Mary Reschel, the event coordinator. Cam Montney working on website. Special shout out to Deb Cadman, Our concession stands coordinator, she retired from that position, so we are looking for someone. If anybody wants to come in, she did a great job, and I think it's a crucial component of our athletics is that I've heard it multiple times and going to other places and people coming that are always amazed at what we offer at these events, from the concessions to the event workers. Carol Hayes, Community Ed and Weekend Building, another special shout out. She was, again, in my 3 years here working with her, she's been nothing but great. And I know Rachel Wright's going to do a phenomenal job. Facilities, custodial, and transportation, and a lot of times, again, with that rain, moving people inside, games and stuff, they do a great job of making our schools and our facilities look like the best that they can be. That's it.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
I have one more item. Madam President Coleman, Hartland School Board of Education. Dear President Coleman and board members, I have regularly shared with people who ask me about retirement that my plan has always been 60 and out. As I approach my 60th birthday on January of 27, this personal milestone has given me cause to reflect on my long journey with the district and in public education. Consequently, I am formally announcing my retirement as superintendent of the Hartland Consolidated Schools, effective December 31st, 2026. My journey began in 2000 when the board entrusted me to lead Hartland High School during its transition to the new high school. Since that time, I have had the opportunity to continue to serve the district and community as assistant superintendent and superintendent. The collective effort of so many have established Hartland Consolidated Schools as a top-tier public school district. It is an accomplishment the entire community can carry forward with pride. I owe deep debt of gratitude to you, President Coleman, as well as Vice President Shaw, Trustee Campbell, Trustee Custodial, past President Mr. Tom DeMond, Mr. Chris Costa, and Mrs. Megan Glaybach, all who served to create a collaborative environment for our students and staff in this community. Your unwavering support has been the cornerstone of our district's growth. However, my tenure has truly been defined by the incredible staff I have had the privilege to work alongside for the past 26 years. Whether they are transporting students, maintaining facilities, providing nutrition, or leading in the classroom, departments, or buildings, I am immensely proud of the dedication shown by every member of this team. We have learned to lean on one another, proving that as a team, we are truly strong. Because of the immense talent I have witnessed daily, I encourage the board to look closely at the talent within our own district as you identify the next district superintendent. For 38 years, this district has thrived under a culture of building internal leadership capacity, from Mr. Pete Caroselli to Mrs. Jan Sifferman, and then to me. I urge the board to prioritize this internal continuity, which has been central to our culture of success, before seeking external candidates. You have an important job ahead of you. I wish you the best. I depart in December with the peace of mind that I am leaving a legacy of fantastic people who will continue to move Hartland in a positive direction. Until my final day, my heart remains in Hartland, and I will stay fully committed to fostering a safe, engaging environment where every child can be successful without exception. I leave you with a quote I've lived by: be true to your heart, be honest to yourself, live inside your integrity, endeavor to do the right things for the right reasons. Let that be your reputation. Stand firm, and in this way, you will always respect the person in the mirror. Thank you. President Coleman, I hand you the letter. So ends the superintendent's report.
I'm not sure how to follow that. Thank you. I respect you, and I respect your decision to move on to the next chapter, and I look forward to working with you through the transition. Thank you. All right. Next up is call to the public. I have one card. Renee, do you have any? Thank you. Mr. Dave Van Akker.
since call to public is short, I will try and keep this pretty short. I'm sorry I haven't been around as many meetings. I am watching you on YouTube though, so I'm not missing the action. I'm not done talking about the wall, but tonight I want to talk about the Constitution because I see a lot of debate going on about different things going on within the board. So I would like to remind you, because I don't hear much talk about it, a lot of times when you're debating stuff, the Constitution has a useful application to help to figure out where to lean on a given subject. For instance, something like I'm hearing a lot of arguments about FOIA. I understand the pros and the cons. I try and listen to them, but I do want to remind people that the importance of what's going on with, at least from one of my perspectives, that hopefully you're considering with things like FOIA. And that is that in the scheme of things, you guys, sorry, Chuck, you guys are the boss. So to me, it doesn't make a lot of sense that the boss has to get permission to get information on his organization. But in the scheme of things in the room, now I've had debates with the deputy about this before. I don't think, is that Dustin? My eyesight's not so good. But anyways, the order of authority theoretically in this room is the people, then the sheriff, I debated with Dustin, reason why, and then the board. So it's not a small ask to make sure that the board is always considering the Constitution, because remember you swore an oath to uphold it. It'd be nice if I had more confidence that more of you have read it, because some of the decisions you make, I'm not always sure that you have. But that's my little ask for tonight, and I'll be back to the wall at some other point, and we'll be talking more about branding. But also the Constitution is useful for branding, because it tells people that you guys are educated, you understand your Constitution, and it gives the insight to the population at large on how you guys think. Because remember, this is a school, so how you think, how we think, how everyone thinks in this room is a reflection on the quality of the schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van Acker. Okay, next up is committee and building reports. Obviously, we haven't had any buildings to visit since we've been out of school. I do have just one.
I have one item too.
Oh, okay, my bad. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Thank you for allowing that. Just to let you know, for those parents who have kids interested in robotics, I just want to give you a heads up that right now applications are open and will remain open through August 22nd for the upper elementary and middle school teams. This program is an incredible program if your child has some even mild interest, not sure which way they want to take this, whether it's highly competitive or just being a part of a team. This is a really great opportunity. I strongly encourage you to take a look into it. And who do they contact? Well, they have to go to the website of heartlandrobotics.org. And what they'll find at the top of the page is a link to the applications. Also, too, an organization like Hartland Robotics relies heavily on adult volunteers. So if you have a parent that wants to, if there is a parent that wants to become maybe a team leader or a coach or a mentor, whatever, the web address for that is hello@heartlandrobotics.org. I strongly encourage, if you have even just the slightest interest or your child has the slightest interest, to look into this, take advantage of it, and get them involved. I think it will pay off tremendously. So with that.
Okay, thank you. If there's none others, I'll just share a quick update from the Senior Center. The advisory committee met a couple weeks ago. August 8th will be the outdoor garage sale here in the HESSC parking lot. If you're interested in participating or purchasing a space to participate, please contact the office at the Senior Center. August 31st through September 1st is their annual free week of fun. So that's when members and non-members non-members can participate in a variety of classes and activities free of charge. It's their big kind of membership push for the year. Most of their recent events have been successful, but of course, they're always looking for ways to raise funds for the betterment of the center and its programming. So all the community support for these events is certainly greatly appreciated. Later on in our informational items, Mr. Keller will roll out some information regarding the board's building assignments for next year. So we can cover that at that time if that's okay. All right. Moving on to item 2A, Cromaine Library Partnership Site Improvements.
I move that the Board of Education approves the Cromaine Library site improvements as presented.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Shaw, supported by Mr. Campbell. Cromaine Library Partnership Site Improvements. Any discussion on the motion? For the public, Mr. Hughes, would you or someone from your team just like to give a little background here?
Yes. So the public is aware, years ago, we used to have a school building between Hartland Road and the 51 building where our child care center is. That was called the 21 building. We were creative at the time. That was the first consolidated school building in Hartland. That property was sold to Cromaine Library. And when that property was sold to Cromaine Library, there's a component to the deed that says that the district, as long as we own the 51 building, has the right to use, to park and have a bus turnaround on the west side of that building. Well, Cromaine has been moving forward with a reconfiguration, a new park concept there on that piece of property, and has asked the district to be a partner in what that looks like, knowing that technically we only own a couple feet off of the building. We no longer own all of that property, but the deed allows us to park and use it as a bus turnaround. So they have quotes for doing the site work in the parking lot, bus turnaround structure. It's going to be less parking for us, a lot less parking, but it will have the bus turnaround. So the district has been asked to look at their quote of $187,000, I think it is, and to see what we would be willing to participate in helping pay for some of that. What I informed the board of is the fact that because of this project, it required the district to have to find parking for our 51 child care people, which means that on the east side of the building, there was a playground and fenced-in area. We moved playground equipment. We're going to put a gravel parking lot in and new fencing. That will cost about $150,000. So all told, what we're asking the board to do is to approve this resolution to allow the district to contribute to that parking and bus turnaround, which we need for that building, at the tune of $50,000. So we're all in on this project, technically, when you look at it, at $200,000, because we had to do our work to be able to find places for our people to park and use. So we think it's a good partnership. We think our partnership with Cromaine is an outstanding partnership. And so we think that this is a good deal because for $50,000, we'll have some paved area and a safe bus turnaround that we planned out. So that's what this is tonight for the board to consider adopting as a resolution to allow us to contribute the $50,000.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Are there any questions or further discussion from the board table?
Just a minor comment. I do know some library employees who were maybe hoping for a little bit more, but I'm just going to let that be. So that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Gogolewski. All right, hearing nothing further, the motion on the table is the Cromaine Library Partnership Site Improvements, presented by Mrs. Shaw, supported by Mr. Campbell. All right, the order is different on this. That's going to throw me off. That's going to totally throw me off.
Real quick, President Coleman, do we need to have the amount in the motion, or?
I think because it says as presented, the board packet speaks for itself.
Okay.
I mean, it is stated clearly in the letter that was presented to us.
My concern, based on our history that we brought up with some things, is that the board package don't make it into the meeting minutes, and we go back to look at minutes and sometimes have a hard time determining what was passed. We had that with, as we discussed the resolutions.
Oh,
and
that
such.
was, yeah, resolutions
So is
specifically,
there-
not
I mean,
minutes, but
Is there a
resolutions.
benefit to putting the specific dollar amount into the motion so that it's recorded in the minutes rather than having to go search?
I wouldn't be opposed to it. If someone wanted to motion to amend the motion, we could add that $50,000 amount.
I'll move to amend the motion to specify the $50,000 as presented in the letter of agreement.
Okay, so the motion on the table for Mr. Scott is to amend the motion to include, hold on, the $50,000 commitment. Does that work?
Yeah.
I'll second.
Okay, and that motion to amend is seconded by Ms. Custodio. All right, any discussion on that motion to amend?
Overall, I think it is a good partnership with specifically with the libraries disappearing from the school building. I think it's important that as a district, we continue to support Cromaine. My hope is that, the money they don't have to put into parking lot can then go towards books and other things that our students will be able to utilize. So I think it is a good relationship. I agree with Mr. Hughes on that.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion to amend? Again, we are amending the motion on the table. The amendment will include the $50,000 commitment in the wording of the original motion. That will be the amended version. Okay. All right, this is totally messing me up. All right, so Ms. Custodio.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Mr. Gogolewski.
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion to amend passes. So now the motion on the table is the current motion as amended. So I can propose a final version of the wording that the Board of Education approves the Cromaine Library Site improvements commitment of $50,000 as presented.
Support.
Okay. I think, Mr. Keller, since we already had it motioned and supported, I appreciate your support, but I don't think we needed that one officially.
Extra support for you.
I like it. Okay. Since I don't have a separate spot to list these, I'm going to go in my usual order because that's more natural to me. So, all right, so the motion on the table is the Cromaine Library Partnership Site Improvements as amended, brought forward by Mrs. Shaw, originally supported by Mr. Campbell. All right. Mr. Gogolewski.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw.
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Ms. Custodio.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Motion carries. Okay, moving on to item 2B, revised policies, and we've got these broken out individually, being that we anticipated probably discussion on all of these. I'll just, I guess as we wrap up with the discussion or with the vote on each one, then I'll just ask somebody to read the next motion. If someone could start with the first one.
I move that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent and the board president, adopts revised policy 0151, organizational meeting as presented.
Okay, motion by Mr. Campbell, supported by Mrs. Shaw. Obviously, this is one that we talked about at the policy committee meeting a couple weeks ago. This is one that I had proposed, and this is to shift the organizational meeting schedule. I know we just had it today, but the proposal is to shift this in alignment with the calendar year instead of with the fiscal year, so that we'll do this again in January. Any further discussion?
Just want to say I support it. I think it was a conversation on previous presidents, so glad that we are finally implementing it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I too support this, and I think one of the biggest reasons, especially when we've looked into superintendent evaluation process, which is on the agenda, a lot of districts are going to the calendar year because it makes that process a lot smoother, a lot easier. As we've all seen, it's very difficult to put together any sort of assessment data, MSTEP data in May as we're trying to evaluate the superintendent. It's been a conversation in the planning process. It's put handcuffs on us on what we can include in the evaluation and what we can't, not knowing whether we'll have the data in time. I think a lot of other districts that are doing it this way, that's relieved some pressure, given a little more breathing room. There is maybe a little bit more of a gap between what's happening in the district and when it gets evaluated. But overall, I think it'll be a better thing, and that being one of our primary goals, I definitely, or primary duties, I definitely support this.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, motion on the table is for revised policy 0151, presented by Mr. Campbell, supported by Mrs. Shaw. All right, I'll just read them in the order here. Ms. Custodio.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Mr. Gogoleski.
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion carries. Next up.
I move that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent and the board president, adopts revised policy 0172, legal counsel as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Shaw, supported by Ms. Custodio. Again, this is one that we brought up at the committee meeting, specifically because there's a reference in this to the date of the organizational meeting. It cites specifically July, instead of just referencing the organizational meeting in general. It says that this is for legal counsel, and that legal counsel will be determined at the organizational meeting in July. So this change is simply to strike those two words, in July. And as Mr. Keller had mentioned at the top of the meeting, there are other concerns with 172 that we will address as part of our policy committee meeting procedure, and we can crack that open for some other reasons. This was simply to avoid having intentionally or knowingly conflicting policies where one says January and another one says July. So just to address that one small change. Any other questions or comments? Okay, motion on the table is revised policy 172, legal counsel, brought forward by Mrs. Shaw, supported by Ms. Custodio. Ms. Custodio.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Mr. Gogoleski.
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Motion carries. Next up.
I move that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent and the board president, adopts revised policy 0168.3, committee meetings as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Shaw, supported by Mr. Campbell. This is another one that I had brought forward regarding committee meetings. I know that there were some concerns. We do have a committee's policy on the agenda for a discussion item later. This policy is obviously related, but not the same. Goes without saying, but there are changes here that could be made independent of 155. But I have a feeling we'll have a little discussion about that and see how we want to proceed. This was in an effort, I brought this forward in an effort to get committees back up and running, and standing committees, so that we can have those in place and make us a little bit more effective and efficient, I think, as a board. So this is just one of those steps in that process. Who has some discussion here?
I can jump in here. So I appreciate what we're doing here, modifying, is essentially to back up a little bit. In December of 2024, I had put forward a resolution to the board, which was passed, which kind of put some rules on committee meetings. We've always said we need to put these into policy. I appreciate that we're now doing that. I don't think we're quite ready to go to game time here, especially since 155 is only in the discussion phase. I firmly believe that 155 and 168 168.3 need to be passed simultaneously, or 155 needs to be passed first. And the reason for that is specifically, I think 155 is the foundation of our committee policy. And currently, as it stands, it essentially says that committees are just one-way communication between the administration and the board. And so for us to pass a policy that says, no, these committees have some powers, would create a conflict with 155, which says the committees have no powers whatsoever. So my recommendation to the board, and I'll make a motion to that, is to postpone 168.3 until the August meeting, so that it can be voted on simultaneously with 155. And I'll make the same recommendation for the rescinding the resolution. I don't disagree that it will become, once we have the policy in place, the resolution is no longer necessary. I agree with that, but I think we need to have the policy firmly in place first. So I move that the Board of Education postpone action on 168.3 until the August regularly scheduled meeting, which is August 10th, 2026.
Motion to postpone the vote on revised policy 168.3 brought forward by Mr. Scott.
Support.
Thank you, Mr. Keller. Okay, any discussion on the motion to postpone? I understand your rationale for tying those together, so I appreciate that. Any discussion at all? All right. Motion to postpone the vote for 168.3. Ms. Custodio.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Mr. Gogolewski.
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Motion to postpone carries. Okay, next up.
Now, we could just not read this next one and take it up, add it to the agenda next, rather than making the motion and then making a separate motion to postpone, right?
I don't know that we can leave it unaddressed. I think we could just simply make a motion to postpone it without having to
Well,
read it.
then I move that the Board of Education postpones the vote to rescind the open committee meeting resolution adopted on December 16th, 2024.
Support.
Until the August regularly
you.
scheduled meeting. So it's not indefinite. I am saying we should vote on it, as a package deal in August.
Thank you for clarifying. So that's motion to postpone the rescinding of open committee meetings resolution adopted December 16th, 2024, brought forward by Mr. Scott and supported by, was that Mr. Campbell? Thank you. And we'll postpone to the August meeting. Any discussion on postponing that vote? Okay. And that is, all right, so motion to postpone the rescind of the committee meeting resolution. Mr. Scott, Mr. Campbell. We'll postpone until the August meeting. Ms. Custodio.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Mr. Gogolewski.
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion carries. Next up.
I move that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent and the board president, adopts revised policy 3120, employment of professional staff as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion by Mr. Scott, supported by Mrs. Shaw. Sorry, that was Mr. Campbell, supported by Mrs. Shaw. Any discussion on revised policy 3120?
I can briefly. So this was spoke about at length, and it was revised based on my notes and review of the meeting, reviewed by Superintendent Hughes and Trustee Gogolewski, and should be how everybody wanted it, pending an oversight.
Thank you. I was looking for some notes that I had made on this, but I'm not finding the handwritten notes that I made. But I did want to indicate that this is from, oh, maybe I'm looking at the wrong policy. I think I'm talking about 1400. Got it. Never mind. I'll refrain. Anybody else?
I support 3120 as presented. I also support the next action, which will be to rescind the resolution passed a couple months ago. I want to thank President Coleman, Secretary Campbell, for taking the time to put, the intent of the resolution into policy, which is a little more moving pieces than just putting a resolution together. So thank you for taking the time to do that. I know it will be for the better of the district that it be in policy. I appreciate that, and I support it.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Anybody else? Okay. Motion on the table is to adopt revised policy 3120, employment of professional staff as presented, brought forward by Mr. Campbell, supported by Mrs. Shaw. Ms. Custodio?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Gogolewski?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion carries. All right, next up.
I move that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent and the Board of President, adopts revised policy 1400, job descriptions as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion by Mr. Campbell, supported by Ms. Custodio. Revised policy 1400. Any discussion on the motion?
So I think this goes hand in hand, much like we're talking today about 168.3 and 155, 3120 and 1400 complement each other, as brought up by Treasurer Keller, and we simply took some from 3120 and put it into that first paragraph in job descriptions, cleaned it up a little bit.
Thank you for that. Thanks for your work on that. And the point that I was going to make earlier is that where it refers to job descriptions, the context of that is that this policy resides in the 1000 series of policies, which is regarding administration. So when it refers to job descriptions here, it doesn't mean every job description for every single position in the district. It is referring to administration job descriptions. Anybody have anything else on that? Outstanding. So this is revised policy 1400, job descriptions, brought forward by Mr. Campbell, supported by Ms. Custodio. Ms. Custodio.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Mr. Gogolewski.
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
I'm a yes. Motion carries. Next up.
I move that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the Board President, rescinds the search process resolution adopted on February 16th, 2026, as discussed.
Okay, motion by Mrs. Shaw, supported by Mr. Campbell, to rescind the search process resolution adopted in February. Any discussion on the motion?
As I said, I introduced the resolution with, and we worked diligently, I think, as a team to whittle it down to specifically what we were looking for, which was that those jobs get posted internally and externally, which is now in policy. So I am certainly fine rescinding this now.
Thank you. Any other comments, discussion? Okay, motion on the table is to rescind the search process resolution from February 16th, 2026, brought forward by Mrs. Shaw, supported by Mr. Campbell. Ms. Custodio.
Yes.
Mr. Scott.
Yes.
Mr. Gogolewski.
Yes.
Mr. Keller.
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Motion carries. Next up.
I think there is still one resolution outstanding, just so you know. We can look at it for next month.
Okay. All right, let's talk.
I move that the Board of Education, upon the recommendation of the superintendent and the board president, moves policy 1410.01, compensation and longevity schedule, and 1410.001, administrative salary structure, to administrative guidelines as discussed.
Support.
Okay, motion from Mr. Campbell, supported by Mrs. Shaw. And this is to move 1410.01 and 1410.001 to administrative guidelines from policy. This is something that we had talked about at the policy committee meeting, because we have to crack this one open so often. It's been revised a number of times. I think the list of revision dates in there is almost as long as the policy. So we talked about moving this to administrative guidelines. Many other districts do this. Both our Neola contact and our Troon contact are like, you guys are the only ones who do this. So that was the proposed change to make based on the discussion. Who has any comments on that tonight?
I would like to just make some comments, and I did send a note to the board earlier today. Something that I had kind of caught when I was going through this was, in the spirit of moving it to a guideline, I don't really have an issue if it's something that's constantly revised. But what I did have concerns about was just trying to understand at the board level. I think the intent of the policy originally was so that the board would approve any changes in compensation. And if we move it to a guideline without addressing in a policy somewhere that compensation changes still need to come back to the board, I have concerns that we are pushing 1410 away without having a solution to that problem, which I think is what 1410 was born from. So I think it's a little premature at this point to get rid of this policy immediately.
Thank you. And I guess just expanding on that a little bit, just based on discussion, I guess just this could be addressed potentially by revising the policy, or perhaps finding another existing policy that Neola has that they could recommend we could add this to, or somehow stipulate what this mechanism may be that would compel administration to bring forward salary structure changes or things like that for approval. So I'm going to ask Mr. Hughes to chime in to give his take from the administrative perspective, but just noting that there's a few different potential ways that we could pursue this.
Thank you, President Coleman. To hopefully put Mr. Keller at ease, first thing I'd point out is 1410.001 is central office administrative contracts, and so that is covered in actually the policy you just passed, 3120, where it says that when not covered by terms of a negotiated collective bargaining agreement, fixed compensation and established. So the board will be required to fix compensation. And I think, Mr. Keller, you and I had a quick email exchange maybe a couple weeks ago, and I think I asked, how would you fix compensation? And you said to me, I think you said, superintendent recommendation. The superintendent recommendation would be in the annual renewal of contracts. Remember, in March, you do the annual rollover of contracts to extend contracts. And in that, we always present to you, the board, the percentage increase over the next 1 to 2 years of that contract. So the board would always be in tune with what that compensation is. And then anything else that we do, we always bring to the board anyway to say, hey, we're having these conversations. Obviously, with administrators that are covered under the Hartland Administrative Association agreement, the board's going to have to adopt that anyway, right? So there's mechanisms that the board's going to be involved in fixing that compensation. As far as 1410.01, the non-covered groups of people, that traditionally has always been something that we use market value for. So we use market value, we come to the board, and that certainly would be shared with the board that, we are, for instance, in this last year, our strategic plan was to look at all of our non-covered employees to make sure that they were within market value and to assure the board that all of our employees are of market value. So I don't know that it totally takes care of that, but by that policy being an administrative guideline, certainly if there's someplace in policy, if you want to look and make a recommendation, that policy committee picks up, whenever 1410 and 1410-01 are changed, that the the superintendent at least, informs the board, right? So that you have that. So I don't know where that would fall, but I think there are mechanisms that take care of that for you. That's just, as I thought about that.
Thanks for that. I appreciate the insight from admin's perspective. I don't know if this addresses fully the concerns that Mr. Keller expressed, or if there are any other concerns regarding moving these to administrative guidelines now, or if the board wants to consider postponing a vote. There are, again, options. Any further comments or discussion?
A question just for clear, sir.
Oh, right ahead.
For clarification then, 001, changes to that will be covered in March. And 01, market value, when do those changes come up to our attention?
We can make them your attention. We traditionally have just done that at administrative, right? Because as a superintendent, my job is to make sure that we have the right people in the right place doing the right thing. I work with the CFO to make sure that we do a market analysis. We look at other school districts and make sure that's there. And we've traditionally just done that. But anytime we actually changed contract language like adding vacation days or adding longevity, that would come to the board always. So the commitment from us is to say, if we feel like we need to change something that's drastically different than what's in there, then we should come to the board and at least give you a heads up, right? Again, if there's a place in policy where that can be captured, that's fine. We're not opposed to it. Technically, the only reason why we're recommending these go to administrative guidelines is simply for that, remember that transparency component we talked about? Somewhere along the way, the board, many moons ago, said we want to be more transparent than any other school district, so anybody could go to our policy and see what these people are, what their criteria are, what they're making, right? Most districts, as Neola would tell you, don't have that anywhere. It's just this document they keep in the CFO, payroll, superintendent's office, and those conversations just occur when they need to occur. So again, I think 1410-001, administratively, you're going to see the contracts rollovers yearly. You're going to see the new hires and what their established pay is going to be because you're going to approve the job description and all that. 01, again, there may be the need to either, one, trust that the CFO is establishing market value and making sure we're taking care of our employees, and two, if the board feels like they really want to know any time, then we just got to figure out a place to capture that.
So I guess the feeling that I've got is these could move to administrative guidelines. We can add to our policy committee list that we've already started and talked about today and offline to look for a place to include some type of reference to that mechanism. But I would feel confident that in the meantime, if we move these to administrative guidelines, I think we're covered. We've got it covered in 3120 for at least the 001 part of it. So it's the 01 side, which is compensation and longevity schedule, that maybe we could address to putting into another policy or finding if it already exists in another policy.
I think because there's so many factors in this, if this is okay and we do this here and maybe if we do that there, I think before we vote on this and try to pass it, I think we should give ourselves a little bit of time to examine all the possibilities, because it sounds a little bit like a big mousetrap. We think we have it covered. We might have it covered. Maybe we do have it covered. That's a problem. So
Yeah, I would agree. I think it sounds like we almost have it figured out, but I would be hesitant to just move them and then try to figure out later what else we need to do to protect the policy side. So I don't think there's any huge rush on this. And like the policy, I'm sorry, like the committee items, I think we should kind of take it as a package, as you suggested, maybe modify the policy before switching it over to an administrative guideline. So I'd move to postpone the motion on the table until the August 10th regularly scheduled meeting.
Second.
Can I ask you just to consider this, please? Maybe this should be postponed until such a time as the policy committee meets, because I think you're going to have to figure out what policy needs to be changed, added to before, and I don't think we have a policy committee before August 10th.
There's not one currently scheduled.
That's all I would suggest.
I mean, if that's an option to make the motion that way, I think my understanding is that we either postpone it to a specific date or indefinitely.
You can postpone it to say to the next regular meeting after the policy
September.
committee meeting.
Okay.
So,
All right. Then the motion hasn't been seconded yet, so I will restate the motion I move to delay the motion on the table until the next regularly scheduled meeting after the next policy meeting.
Second.
okay. Let me jot that down.
Absolutely.
Okay, so the motion on the table is to postpone the vote on 141001, 1410-001 until the first regular meeting after the next policy committee meeting. Does that sound fair? Okay, that was brought forward by Mr. Scott, supported by Mr. Gogolewski. Any discussion on the motion to postpone the vote on the 1410s?
Again, I support it. I think we should do it all together so that we have an idea of if this moves over here, what all the different dominoes that need to fall in terms of policy. So rather just get it right than hurry up and
Okay.
get it passed.
Any other discussion? All right, hearing none. The motion on the table is to postpone the vote on 141001, 1410-001 until the first regular meeting after the next policy committee meeting. That motion to postpone is brought forward by Mr. Scott, supported by Mr. Gogolewski. Ms. Custodio?
Yes.
Mr. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. Gogolewski?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Motion carries. Okay, revised policies. All right, moving on to item 2C. So I get myself organized. This is FOIA fee appeals. Hold
sorry.
on 2 seconds, actually, before you read that. For the first two FOIA appeals on the agenda, I've asked Mr. Scott to use the podium to address the board as a community member as his FOIA requests were submitted as such. So Mr. Scott, please feel free to take the podium, and then you can present your statement. Once that is presented, I'll ask for someone to read the motion, and then we will deliberate.
Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. So I know there's three motions on the table here. The first two have to do with the fee appeal. I'm not going to bore you and stand here twice, so I'll get it all out in one fell swoop here, and then you guys can deliberate. And I'll just put duct tape over my mouth in the corner. As an elected member of the Board of Education, I should not have to file a Freedom of Information Act request to obtain basic district information. Yet that is exactly what I have been forced to do repeatedly. Board members have a fundamental responsibility to provide oversight, ensure transparency, and make informed decisions on behalf of students, parents, taxpayers, etc. How can we as board members, you as board members, fulfill that duty if we treat the district we govern as an adversarial party and have to pay fees to access records that belong to the public? Requiring FOIA requests from sitting board members creates unnecessary barriers, wastes administrative time and money, and undermines the very principles of open government. When a board member makes a reasonable request for information related to our governance responsibilities, whether it concerns student achievement data, policy compliance, or financial matters, the district should provide it promptly and without charge. In front of you tonight are 2 FOIA fee appeals. I have been charged $672.88 to access the coaches' handbooks, policies, and procedures. That's right. I requested this information as a board member and was denied. The board has, currently as it stands, the board has no actual knowledge of what the district is relaying to coaches in terms of policies, procedures, or even the handbook they've received. Now, as a volunteer for this community and an elected official, my request is denied and I'm asked to pay $672.88 to see this. Essentially what I've asked for is when a new coach starts, what do you give to them? I mean, it's pretty simple. I requested that as a board member and was sent a link to an erroneous page on the website. Then the FOIA comes through and it's 16 hours to gather up all the information a coach is given on their first day. That seems insane to me. What, is it not in a file somewhere? Is it not in somebody's computer desktop? The fact that somebody would have to pay $672.88 just to see what a coach gets on their first day on the job. I'm not asking for personal information. I'm not asking for personalized anything. Just the handbook, the policies, the procedures. You know, the board, it's our duty to oversee that sort of stuff, and we're prohibited right now from even knowing what it is. The fact that there's an estimate for 16 hours to gather it up means there's something there. It would be one thing if I got a FOIA back that says there's no documents that pertain to your request. Then we say, okay, the coaches don't have a handbook or policies or procedures they have to follow. But the response I got was, yeah, we got so much stuff at 16 hours of time to find it, and the board can't see it. That's pretty insane. My second FOIA fee appeal tonight is for complaints and investigations from a single district department. The FOIA fee I received was $507.16. I can't imagine any reason these fees should be so exorbitant or even necessary in the first place. This is basic information that every Board of Education in the state of Michigan should have open access to. Most boards are provided this information without request. In our case, I'm charged $507.16. Again, in that case, 10 hours to gather up the information and then more time to redact it. Now, having been through several of the FOIA fee appeals as both a parent and a board member, I already know a lot of what's going to be said here tonight at deliberation. As I said, as I sit and do my best to not speak. I won't speak. But during the deliberation, there will likely be arguments that the FOIA request was overly burdensome. However, specificity is necessary when submitting FOIA requests to make sure that documents are complete and that we get what we actually need for effective oversight. This is not about special treatment. It's about basic functionality. An effective school board cannot operate in the dark. Denying or delaying access, charging fees, etc., erodes trust and weakens our ability to serve the Hartland community. Therefore, my ask tonight is that the board waive the FOIA fees entirely for this request, direct the district to release the information, not just to me, but to the entire board as a whole. I request that the superintendent and the FOIA coordinator provide a written certification that the information provided is complete and accurate. Transparency is not a favor. It's your obligation as the Hartland Consolidated Schools Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. I also just wanted to clarify, just to state for the record so that can be recorded in the minutes, that the reason Mr. Scott is not participating in the deliberation or in the vote on these two motions for the two appeals that he just referenced is just because of the financial conflict of interest. Just need to state that out loud. So can we have the first motion, please?
I move that the Board of Education denies the FOIA fee appeal received on 7/9/2026 for HCS Athletic Department complaints and investigations and affirms the FOIA coordinator's determination of the initial estimated fee itemization submitted on 7/9/2026.
A motion by Mrs. Shaw, supported by Mr. Campbell. So this one is regarding specifically the request for athletic department complaints and investigations. Does anybody want to kick it off?
Yes, I do. This is the umpteenth time that we've approached this subject where a board member has to pay money for information that should be given to them. And it is absolutely insane or abhorrent that that ever should take place for a board member to do their job. But this kind of reflects a much bigger issue that I don't think we're addressing, is the fact that if we take things like surveys, or we take in information, or we compile tables of information, or what have you, my concern is how we treat that information, whether it's electronic, whether it's hard copy. How do we keep it? Why does it take hours and hours and hours to collect that information? We have a document and data collection issue, and that's something that I think needs to fix this problem of creating FOIAs for board members. If we don't do that and tackle that at the root, I think this is just going to be a continuing problem, a continuing item, and I'd like to see the problem solved as opposed to just, well, that's going to have to be another FOIA. That to me is ridiculous.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Campbell.
Two questions on it. So as it reads, Hartland Consolidated Schools Athletic Department complaints and investigations, is that, is there a date range on that, or is that going to include ongoing investigations? Because I think that procedurally, we're not involved in ongoing investigations. Do you know clarity on that? Is that to include things that they've decided are closed, or is it?
The request, the initial request simply states from July 2024 to July 2026.
So if that's, I'd be opposed to having that include current ongoing investigations, because I don't think that that's really something that's brought to us yet, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but procedurally, it's elevated to central office, and then if there's an appeal, it comes to us. The second one is somewhere in here, though, there's still time before it would come to the board, because they would have to redact sensitive information. I would think that that would still be included as well. So I guess those two things. Procedurally, I don't feel we should be privileged to ongoing complaints and investigations, and then how to handle that sensitive information that's released to the board.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hughes, could you address the notion of the current investigations versus something that would be a closed investigation? The typical process, I would understand that once an investigation is completed, that is typically when the findings may be presented to or shared with the board. But something that is ongoing would be something that would need to be omitted from this, or?
I think it should be. I guess we'd have to have a legal opinion specifically on ongoing investigation. Ongoing investigation is is not in the board's realm. It is in the realm of the people doing the investigation, which is the trained people here in this district. You know, when you read the FOIA and it says include complaints from parents, student athletes, staff, and others concerning misconduct or mistreatment of athletes, hazing, bullying, but it goes on and on and on. You know, obviously there are many complaints. I was a high school principal, and I always tell people that 60% of my time was athletic and, forgive me, music complaints that, you know, you had to work through at times. And it was a lot of effort and time. So to go back and find all of these records is very time consuming, to try to figure out how many parents have complained because of their child's playing time, how many parents complained because of X, Y, and Z, and try to find that information. And then to be worried on the other side that if we don't find something, it's going to be thrown out there that, hey, I have this, but you didn't find this. So to do a complete search and to figure all this out, it will take time. Now, I will tell you that I did ask the FOIA requester to narrow their search. If they could narrow their search, that would help us figure out what was going on.
So by narrowing the search, either narrowing the date range, maybe the particular sport or sports, or to somehow narrow down keywords, right? 'Cause you need to have some type of keywords to search, I would imagine, to be able to find pertinent emails. And then once you find an email with whatever the given keyword may be, then you need to have human eyes on it to make sure that it's actually related to that sport or related to the request.
I have a question.
Sure.
So with complaints, depending upon the severity, there's no central file system to record those or catalog those in any way, shape, or form. They're just out there. They come in as what, emails or something like that, and then we have to go hunt them down?
Could be that they come in emails, could be they come in a letter, could be they come in lots of different ways. And in this case, a phone call could be the athletic director simply saying, you know, talking with parents and then moving that complaint down the chain to the coach to say, hey, we've had this concern, you know, can you help me understand? Like, again, we don't know, based on the way this was written, there's a lot of legwork to be done to ferret out every one of these concerns that are listed to try to figure out what is it the requester is asking for. So to narrow it down to one sport, that would be very helpful. To narrow it down to one type of complaint in a spring sport or a fall sport, that would be helpful and not take so much time, because when asked for this originally, I went back to Board Policy 1210-001 that was adopted in February by this board, and it does state in there, it says, response to, it says, informational requests by the board communication to the superintendent, self-monitor requests to ensure that they are essential, need to know versus nice to know. If a request for information requires significant time, staff time, 4 or more hours, I remember the debate on that, it must receive a majority board approval before proceeding. So we followed board policy as we are requested under the board. We let them know that this is what it is. The FOIA came in. We asked for it to be shortened, to be synchronized, to help us figure out what they were actually looking for, because the way it's written is extremely vague and could take a lot of time.
And I think, Glenn, getting to the question that you asked, you know, like, so as these come in, where are they housed, right? In the request, it says both formal and informal complaints. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine they would be in a variety of forms if it's informal complaints. It could be a casual conversation that, you know, an AD has with a parent or a coach or something like that.
But I also think, too, that there can be some professional guidelines to make the determination as to whether or not it's documentable or it's just something that is informal. And if it is something that's important enough that where it would be documented, I think there should be some way or some repository for that information. I wonder as to why that's not a metric that we would track, not necessarily at the board level, but within the department level. I would think that there would be a need or a want to kind of track that from year to year. How many complaints are we getting? Are we improving? Are we not improving? That kind of thing. So.
Sure, and I think, and I agree that for formal complaints, that it would be beneficial to have a formal process in place, but for these informal ones, it would be much more difficult to define and to track down in order to fulfill a FOIA request that wants formal and informal. So I agree that logging, the formal ones, the ones that we need follow-up on, whatever, sure, that would probably make some of this easier, but the informal, that's going to be tough to.
But some of those informal could escalate to a more formal type of complaint too.
Right.
And at that point, I mean, if we have some guidelines to say, okay, this is now something that should be documented, and in whatever way, shape, or form it should be kept with all of the others. And that information for, a number of purposes should be kept, tracked, and compared to on a regular basis.
Sure. I don't disagree, but since we don't have that in place, in order to fulfill the request for formal and informal reports or complaints, it's going to be a tough bill.
Well, sometimes not having things in place or done right do cost money and do cost time and resources. The problem is we should find a way to correct it. So.
President Coleman, I have a question on this. So Superintendent Hughes said that we would need a legal opinion on that if there's any open ongoing investigations. But it looks like on this FOIA request, we had until today to respond. So how do we?
I'm not following your question. I'm
So
sorry.
if we have to respond to this, we have to vote on this today, but no, we don't have to vote on it today?
I believe we have 10 days. The board, once they take action on this, has 10 days to respond on the action taken for the appeal.
Yeah, so I think the response would follow the decision that we make tonight.
But that's what I'm saying, we have to make a decision tonight.
Oh, okay.
Right, and so I was just wondering if we don't have that.
Oh, if we don't have the legal opinion.
I think tonight you're just determining, do you set aside the fee, or do you say the fee stands and we move on? So that's really the decision being made tonight.
Question. The DOJ agreement that we signed up for a few years ago, if I recall correctly, said we got to log this, log that. You look the wrong way at somebody, you're going to be put on a list, right? And I remember that was a heated debate over the things that we had to potentially capture, collect, report, et cetera. So I'm wondering why the information that's in something like that wouldn't be readily available, that could be provided in a very quick fashion. And then, I guess secondly, I think an issue that I've had repeatedly, right, is asking for information and not being able to get it, or having to, go through extraordinary efforts, whether it be FOIA or bring it to the table to have the board vote on it. And I know that we now have a policy that stipulates that we should do that in 1210, that is if it's over 4 hours. But I think prior to that, there was a lot of issues where information wasn't being provided, which led to that communication policy. I guess I still struggle that we as a board would not provide this information to a board member who received information from a member of the community anonymously, or a person that wished to be anonymous, right? So I don't think Mr. Scott's doing it because he was bored and woke up one day and said, let me find the most ridiculous FOIA request I can come up with that's going to take somebody 3 weeks to to provide the information. I think he was doing his job as a board member because he got information and he was trying to act upon it to make sure whether or not there was merit or not in a claim. And looking at some of the surveys that I saw, and I still have lots of details to go through because there was a lot of information there, but I appreciate that Mr. Scott brought this to the attention, and some of the things that I saw in those surveys were a little bit concerning, and I won't waste the time talking about that today, but I think that is something that probably should be an agenda item for a future board meetings, and therefore, this whole process of a FOIA would not even be necessary because we would then have to have the information as a board anyway. So, I am not in favor of charging a board member the equivalent of 2 years of his salary that he doesn't collect anyways to sit up here to get information so that he can do his job.
And I don't think it's fair to charge a board member, any board member, no matter who it is, money because we have an inadequate policy for keeping records. That's just sickening.
Just to clarify, Greg, you brought up the DOJ list, the incident tracking list that we had created at the request of the DOJ as part of that agreement. Those incidents are not specific to athletics, whereas this request is athletics. So even if we were to refer to that list to try to fulfill some of the information here, it's not going to be all inclusive for athletics, and it's also going to include a whole bunch of other information that isn't athletics. So I hear what you're saying about using that information or using something like that, but I don't know that it's kind of apples and oranges for this request. And then also, to your point about requesting this information as well as the survey information and as well as the other FOIA appeal that we'll talk about here in a minute, Mr. Scott also requested that the district pursue an investigation based on the information that he had collected that was passed on to him. So the district is already pursuing this. So to provide the information, to Mr. Campbell's point, regarding an ongoing investigation seems to be somewhat contradictory in my eyes. To provide him that information when the district is performing an investigation, to share that with before the investigation is completed. I struggle with that too. Though I hear loud and clear the point that Glenn is making about having something in place, some kind of structure for information housing in general, I hear that, I get it. But I don't necessarily agree that all of this information is something that should just be handed to every board member on the regular. I think to receive summaries of some of this information, to receive reports, to alert us to major allegations or claims, to let us know when investigations are happening, I think all of that is pertinent at the board level. But I don't agree with us getting involved in collecting all the information so we can do our own investigations. That's not necessarily what we are here to do. So that's why I struggle with some of this, and that's why I directed Mr. Scott for the survey data. When he asked me for the survey data, there was no board decision at the time. There was nothing pending, no board business that related directly to that. So obviously there is an investigation that has come from that, and I'm glad that he brought that forward. But I don't know that all this information should just necessarily be handed over in that level of detail.
Can it be handed over with restrictions? Much like sometimes we get information that, from the state that's, embargoed, as they say, and what have you, where, let's say, if a board member does want to look at information, they can look at it, but restricted in terms of what they do with it if they launch their own investigation or enter themselves into the current investigation. I think there'd be a way to deal with that.
Sure, I don't disagree with that.
Mr. Keller, you said, I didn't catch the word, I think you said that Mr. Scott got a complaint or a tip. But to me, this is more so conducting an audit of the system over 2 years. And I think that if Mr. Scott's trying to keep it vague so it doesn't elude what sport it is or what grade maybe the student is or a parent, then he can still narrow it down to maybe 2 or 3 sports or maybe a few months for that information to come in. But this to me seems pretty vast. I mean, 2 years of data for him to go through is pretty significant. I agree, Mr. Gogolewski, there's something in place, a policy to keep that. I just don't know how to craft that because to your point, I think it's correct that informal may not be necessary to report to us, but I think that that inserts opinion and that can be problematic if those develop too into something more significant and they weren't reported initially can be a problem. So I think that's something we can look into. But I think that will be tough to kind of craft and create. Finally, maybe within that, when that is prepared, not only the process to capture complaints and investigations, but maybe we can get something a little bit nicer than the current redaction system that we have. Mr. Scott, I know what your address is now when I look at this. I think there's a way that we can make that a little bit better. And to a point that came up too, when you do remove data, you can also, in systems I'm familiar with, you can identify why that information was removed. So I'd be reluctant to pass this because of the vastness and maybe narrow it down in time, but also to make sure that it doesn't include any ongoing complaints and investigations.
Okay, any further discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to say I also agree with Mr. Gogolewski. I think that a system in place is definitely something that would be advantageous moving forward. And I think that Mr. Campbell is right on track. I think it would be very helpful to narrow it down to a few sports, and that would be something that I would definitely support from there.
Okay, any further discussion? The motion on the table was brought forward by Mrs. Shaw, supported by Mr. Campbell. This is to deny the FOIA fee appeal received on 7/9/26 for HCS Athletic Department complaints and investigations. The vote would affirm the FOIA coordinators, a yes vote would affirm the FOIA coordinator's determination of the initial estimated fee itemization submitted on 7/9. Hearing no further discussion. Ms. Custodio?
Yes.
Mr. Scott? Sorry, you don't get to do that. Mr. Gogolewski?
No.
Mr. Keller?
No.
Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Motion carries. Okay. Next up.
I move that the Board of Education denies the FOIA fee appeal received on 7/9/2026 for the Hartland Consolidated Schools Coaches Handbook, Policies, and Procedures, and affirms the FOIA coordinator's determination of the initial estimated fee itemization submitted July 9th, 2026.
Support. Okay, motion by Mr. Campbell, supported by Mrs. Shaw. Mr. Scott addressed both the last appeal and this one with his statement. So I open it up for deliberation. Who would like to kick this off?
Yeah, I think Mr. Scott made a great point. I think if it takes 16 hours to get this together, Mr. Oren's the example I'll use where they should start preparing that because he's going to be a coach, I understand. So to me, that packet's readily available, PDF format to print or pass to them. And if that's a district document, I think we should be aware of what that says.
And again, this is also dealing with document and record control. And when it comes to information that is given to instruct staff, it should not take that long. So.
Any other comments, discussion? Okay, hearing none. The motion on the table is the FOIA fee appeal received on 7/9/26 for HCS Coaches Handbook, policies, and procedures. A yes vote would affirm the FOIA coordinator's determination of the initial estimated fee itemization submitted on 7/9. Ms. Custodio?
No.
Mr. Gogolewski?
No.
Mr. Keller?
No.
Mrs. Shaw?
No.
Mr. Campbell?
No.
I'm a no. That motion does not carry.
So because the board has not upheld that, does the board have a direction that they are expecting us to go? Do they want us to reduce the fee? Again, do they want us to just gather everything we have and provide it? It's at the board discretion, I guess, because you're making a decision on the appeal on whether or not you uphold the cost or not. So what's the next step? You can go back to Board Policy 1210-001 and say, you have the full board here. Go back to that policy that says, unless the board, receives a majority vote to provide that information. So if that's the will of the board to provide that, you'll need to let us know that you're making that determination to provide it.
I mean, personally, I think the board spoke fairly loud and clear that the way I interpret it is we want the information to be released to the entire board at no cost to Mr. Scott. I don't know if anyone has a different opinion, but that's mine.
That's mine too. Yeah.
Well, I'm asking.
Okay. I'm not opposed. If we have consensus, then
I would just like maybe one step further, since everybody had opinions on this, maybe as new ones are implemented, those are things that are also shared.
new handbooks.
New
and
handbooks that are made, yep,
policies.
that those would be shared with everybody.
I have a question, I guess, since we're talking about it. Isn't it just one handbook? It's one packet of policies, it's one packet of procedures? Because why would tennis be different from lacrosse for how you would handle a situation, policy or procedure? I mean, if it's sport-specific, to me, that would be like a coach's handbook that may not be a district policy, but maybe sport procedure from some kind of sport body. But to me, this is one PDF thing that you print out and every coach gets it. I mean, perhaps Superintendent Hughes can explain, but.
So we didn't take it that way. We read it as all current handbooks, manuals, guidelines, codes of conduct, contracts for each and every individual coach. Because every coach has their own coaching handbook. Yes, we might have a handbook here, for instance, the athletic code of conduct in the parent-student code of conduct, and there's a whole section on athletics, which I referenced to Mr. Scott. But when we started looking at this, and our conversation with the athletic department was, how do we get all of these? Do you have a record of all? Do you have them all on file? Do we have PDFs of them, or are we going to have to make copies and provide hand copies? Contracts, pulling all contracts. The coaches get contracts either through EduStaff or through the district. So go back to EduStaff to say, give us. So there was more to it than just what it seems. Is we didn't want to miss anything. And we have to go through each sport by sport to make sure we have all of the information that is being requested, unless Mr. Scott was willing to narrow his search and say, hey, okay, I just need it for these sports. So by the assumption being that by making this vote, you don't uphold the fee, you're saying whatever it takes, gather all this information, which is we're willing to do. That's why I asked the question, are you reducing the fee? Are you simply saying give it to him for everything? And does he, as a board member, need that for every single sport, for every single contract, for every single situation? So I don't know if that answers your question, Mr. Campbell?
Yeah, it sounds like there's way too many handbooks, policies, and procedures if you need to know which
Could
sport.
be.
So this will be the beginning of, I'm happy to help with that, but let's combine them all into one. And then you press print once, it doesn't matter what sport it is, and so this will be a good change.
I appreciate that, and so starting on, I think I emailed the board to let you know that on June 2nd, Ms. Gregory and I came across a situation we were dealing with, and we said, we don't have a handbook that's being utilized. We're going to create one. So we met last week with Mr. Fitzgerald and Mr. Hassler, and they presented their rough copy. We sent them back with some changes. We're waiting for those changes to come back, and at that point in time, we'll be happy to share with the board.
How will that be kept, though? Are we going to have some kind of repository for those types of documents in the future? Are we going to have a revision level on them? Or it's great. We don't have a manual. Now we're going to create one. Wonderful. What do we do with it?
Yeah. Mr. Hassler will be responsible for sharing that on his athletic coaches hub, and they have access to that, and they sign off that they received it and they understand it, just like our staff and our students sign off on their handbooks every year.
So we still need to decide or agree. We need consensus here at the board on if we are reducing the fee or if we are eliminating the fee. We have voted to not support what was originally quoted, but we need to provide some direction. I understand the points about handbooks, manuals, but the contracts, I think, are going to take a little bit of time. There's still time involved with this, pulling it together.
May I make a point of clarification so that it's not?
Sure. Yes,
and-
we have voted, so this is no
So-
longer technically deliberation. Thank you.
So, and I'm happy to put this right, my intention behind the word contracts, because that's been used, was just any document which a coach would sign that adheres them to, as they said, a code of conduct. I'm not asking for the actual contract signed by every coach. If they say, here's just like we talked about, students have to sign, we read the handbook. I'm just looking for that one
You're
form
looking for
that
the
says-
template.
Correct. Not each coach's version. So I'm not looking to go into personnel files. I'm not looking for anything signed by anyone, just those template documents, exactly. So just if that helps with clarification.
That helps tremendously. Thank you for clarifying that, because that definitely weighs into the estimation.
So is the consensus here that we ask Chuck and his team to provide the information without a fee to Mr. Scott?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, for this request. Okay.
With the clarification.
With the clarification regarding the contracts, he's looking more for template documents. Okay. Moving on, next up.
That was the hardest 15 minutes of my life, just so you know.
I appreciate that. Thank
Yes,
you.
being quiet, yes.
Thank you.
I move that the Board of Education denies the FOIA appeal received on July 17th, 2026 as moot because the requester received a supplemental Freedom of Information Act response on July 20th, 2026, along with all responsive documents.
Support.
Motion by Mrs. Shaw, supported by Mr. Campbell. So this was a recent add to the agenda. You should have the documentation in front of you as part of the packet. This, again, was an appeal. Well, there was an initial FOIA request. The information was provided. There was I don't know how to, do you want to help me with the
Yeah,
chain of
I'm
events,
happy
Mr.
to just
Scott?
give a rundown
Please.
from my perspective.
Thank you.
I had requested some surveys be shared with the board. That request was denied. I know in the previous discussion, deliberation, there was talk about that it should come before the board for vote. That was never offered as an option. I was just told, no, you're not getting that information. So I put the FOIA together asking for the survey data. I received an estimate, I don't have it in front of me, a couple $100. Through some conversations, I think it eventually, that survey data was eventually shared with the board. And I was asked by Mr. Hughes and/or President Coleman, does sharing that with the board satisfy your FOIA? And I said, no, I'd still like it officially released because then there's some certification, the document is complete in full, et cetera. So I did receive the surveys to fill the FOIA without any fee. I appreciate that. However, they were redacted, entire columns removed with no explanation. And so I did specify in my request, I don't want personal information, I don't want names, I don't want email addresses. However, by law, when the district gives over a responsive document to a FOIA request, any redaction must be, first of all, noted, and you have to note the exemption, the FOIA exemption, which applies to that redaction. And secondly, that is a partial denial. If there's a spreadsheet that has 12 columns and I delete 6 and just give you half a spreadsheet and say, there you go, I gave you everything you asked for, that is improper in the eyes of the law. So I wrote back to the FOIA coordinator respectfully and said, you know, I understand you have redacted this, not disclosed the redactions, not notified me of the exemptions which apply for the redactions, and you have certified that you've granted my request in full, even though that's not true. It has been a partial denial. And so today, this afternoon, I got some updated spreadsheets from the FOIA coordinator with the proper letter saying that partial denial and explaining some redactions. However, there were additional redactions in the information I received today. Honestly, I don't know if they were there last time or not, that were not noted on the exemption. So, for example, one of the spreadsheets, the column indicating which sport the individual played was deleted from the spreadsheet, redacted, no reason given, no exemption provided. What was included this time was the timestamp of the surveys, which had been redacted previously without notice and no exemption given. So we are still in a position where the documents that have been provided to fill the FOIA do not meet FOIA guidelines, in that there are still redactions which have not been disclosed and there's not exemptions provided for. So my request is simply that those documents be turned over with those, for instance, where the column of the sport indicated has been removed, with that restored as it should be.
I can save everybody a problem here. That wasn't intended to be that way. All you have to do is email me or the FOIA coordinator and say, the spring parent survey, this is missing. The athletic sport was intended to be on that. So if that was inadvertently deleted when being transferred, and making sure that the emails were blacked out in that column, timestamp appeared, that was an accident, purely an accident. It's just a phone call to me or Renee to say, hey, spring 2025, somehow you're missing. It was here the first time, it's not here that time. It was an accident. Pure and simple, an accident, and not intended. So all you had to do is let us know.
And that's one example in a cursory review. And again, this information came in literally hours before our meeting, so I haven't, and it shouldn't be my job or the respondent or any FOIA requester to have to go through and make sure, you know, that the law is being followed, that the redactions are noted. I mean, I'm of a particular case here, and that I want it to be done correctly. I want the district to follow the law, and that's why I've pushed this and pushed this and pushed this so that I can get accurate information. I want to make sure that if any member of the public or parent puts in a FOIA request, that there's not unlawful redactions, that there's not certifications that everything's there when items have been deleted. We need to have a formal process that makes sure that we meet the law to the letter, and that all of us sitting here can be confident that if an individual of the public puts through a FOIA request, we know it's filled accurately, and that's my goal.
Yeah, I agree with Mr. Scott. I don't know how, again, we craft a policy or put something in place, but I think you said that he could have let you know that a sport was missing, but if the box is removed, then how does he know to ask for that? How does he even know that it was included to begin with? And it's got to be a polished up procedure so that it's right the first time, so nobody has to go back and forth 7 times and get 7 different products given to them. But just something in place. It's not fair also, I think, to maybe whoever's doing this. It's got to be an uncomfortable situation that they're doing it right, because apparently, clearly, there's different drafts being provided. Yeah, something we can look at, I think, too.
So, Mr. Campbell, I own it. I started with 4 hours trying to fill this. It's now led to about 12 hours, multiple versions, trying to take care of Mr. Scott and his FOIA. And so at this point in time, the reality is, I'll go through the documents that he was sent, and if there's something missing, such as the athletic column that's supposed to be there, I'll resend that to him. But other than that, everything has been filled to the best of our knowledge. No other redactions in the comments section. Those were the same. The only thing I did today to help the FOIA coordinator to get that information to the FOIA coordinator was to add the column of the parent surveys, where we actually blacked out the parent emails because those aren't, being sent. I had just deleted that column because they're redacted, they're just deleted, but I made sure I put it in black so Mr. Scott could see that. I added the timestamp column back, and so somewhere in that process, I must have accidentally deleted the third column, which is what sport they play in. So I will go back and check that and make sure Mr. Scott has the accurate, specific survey that I messed up on.
I guess I would have thought too, I'm sorry not to go on about this forever, but that the superintendent would be preparing these FOIA documents. I don't know if it's standard that you always do that for the district, or are you the FOIA coordinator that prepares that? Or maybe if it's never the same person, then that's a problem too. Different products, different programs, different procedures, different understanding of what's required under FOIA. It doesn't have to be an answer, I guess, but something to look at so that everything's consistent across the board. And if you should be doing that, the superintendent of the school district, then that's the thing. But however we want to assign that.
So the answer is the superintendent does everything that, the superintendent does anything that he'd ask others to do. And because everybody's busy, and this is we don't sit around with our feet up, we're getting things done. I have one administrator that's knee-deep in an investigation, another that just came on board, another that doesn't deal with FOIAs at all except from the number sense, and an administrative assistant who's working her tail off to keep the district moving, including all this last-minute change stuff that she was stressing out with today, trying to get this to the board so I can, so I do what I have to do to help where I can. Can't charge my fees. I can charge the lowest available person's fees. But the reality is I do what I have to do to help my team get this done. A few years ago, I came to the board, I recall, trying to create a new position. I was denied, and part of that new creation was someone that would handle FOIAs and be our communication person specific to FOIAs. I was denied that. So we're left with, again, like we always said, we're light in administration here in Hartland on purpose. We do a lot of work. We all just jump in and get it done. So if there's something missing, it's on me. And I do that because, where I can help, I help.
If I may just point out the obvious here, the request as a board member is a much more informal one than the legal process by which a FOIA has to take place. So in my mind, the request as a board member, can I see the surveys? Then absolutely, you can send it to the board and say, hey, I removed column A and B because it's names and email addresses. There doesn't need to be this other formal process. It seems like the extra time has been created by putting it through the legal FOIA process rather than just giving it to the board upon request. So just to make the obvious point.
stated earlier, communication policy 1210-001 was being followed.
Well, it
But
was.
sorry, if I may, I don't see anywhere, though, where 1210 says if it's more than 4 hours, they have to FOIA it. If I recall correctly, it says it comes to the board for a vote. So I think to Mr. Scott's point, it didn't need to go down the formal FOIA route. It could have just been a request from the board, and if you had said it was more than 4 hours, it would be voted on. It didn't have to go through a FOIA.
And if that were true, we would be talking about it tonight as a request of the board, and it wouldn't have had to do a FOIA, because this would have been the first board meeting since, the request was originally made, with the estimate being 4 hours or more. So this would have been the place to have that conversation.
Well, the policy was not followed because the response I got was not, Mr. Scott, we will take this up at the next board meeting and vote on it. If that was a response, I wouldn't have put through the FOIA. The response I got was a denial, no, you're not getting that information. So the policy was not followed on your end. The information was denied. It was not brought forward to a board vote.
Noted, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the motion on the table regarding this FOIA appeal?
So what are we voting on? I guess I'm still not clear even what.
Yeah, the wording is not particularly user-friendly. I think this did come from Troon. The way I interpret it is that a yes vote is denying the FOIA appeal, which is the last, the most recent email that Mr. Scott sent, saying that his FOIA request was still not complete. So calling it moot, I guess, was the wording that came from Troon. So it calls this last request, his last appeal, as moot because the requester received a supplemental response and then also had received the responsive documents. So he has the data in hand. To his point, it doesn't dot all the I's and cross all the T's of the FOIA process, but he has the information. So as I interpret this motion, it's just simply stating that this last appeal doesn't need to be considered, I guess. Would that be appropriate? I
Yeah,
didn't speak directly with Troon.
According to Troon, that's appropriate. However, what I would suggest the board do is to vote that it's not moot, and we will review the documents that Mr. Scott has said is missing a column. And if that is the case, we will send him a new version of that spreadsheet that may not be. What I can assure Mr. Scott is this letter is accurate to the best of our ability on everything. And so we'll send this letter again with that one spreadsheet that says, okay, now it's filled. So that's all we can do.
And with the explanation
Yeah.
for the,
Yep.
yes, okay.
So I would say you can deny this or say no to it, and that's fine. We'll take care of it tomorrow.
So a no vote would not consider this as moot.
Correct.
And so all I would expect is a follow-up response with those responsive documents fixed, which is sufficient for me, absolutely.
Perfect. All right, any further discussion?
Yeah, one quick question.
Sure.
The first line, the first few words of the first line, that the Board of Education denies the FOIA appeal, that to me is kind of the bigger thing here. And I would say no to deny the FOIA appeal.
Right, and that's I think what our consensus is, that we will vote no, so that we won't be denying, we won't be considering this appeal as moot, because Chuck and his team will follow up with the remaining information. Okay, all right, so motion on the table that the Board of Education denies the FOIA appeal received on July 17th, 26 as moot because the requester received a supplemental Freedom of Information Act response on July 20th, along with all responsive documents. This was brought forward by Mrs. Shaw, supported by Mr. Campbell. Ms. Custodio?
No.
Mr. Scott?
No.
Mr. Gogoleski?
No.
Mr. Keller?
No.
Mrs. Shaw?
No.
Mr. Campbell?
No.
And I'm a no. Motion does not carry. And just to clarify, because there was no financial implications with this vote, that is why Mr. Scott was permitted to participate in deliberation. He did not have to stay quiet, and he was able to participate in the vote. All right. Moving on. Item 3A, superintendent evaluation for discussion. As you all know, we are required to discuss a number of things at our organizational meeting with respect to the superintendent evaluation. And there's a lot of moving parts this time to the superintendent evaluation because we have now agreed to move our organizational meeting from July to January. And then with it, the superintendent evaluation cycle will follow suit. So we've got 6 months, and we need to figure out if we are going to do a short-term evaluation. And then if so, what instrument we'll use, all the timeline, key dates, all those things that are pertinent to the evaluation. Or there is an option that the board could waive the active, or an active evaluation for the 2026-27 school year because Mr. Hughes has a record of 3 or more years of effective or highly effective ratings. He's been consistent through his tenure with those ratings. So some of our neighbors, I believe Brighton, the board has chosen to biannually evaluate their superintendent based on a track record like that. So we have the option to do that. As I see it, there are 2 options. So first, we do a 6-month evaluation cycle. I would propose if we do that, we use the same evaluation instrument because that evaluation cycle starts now and we need to get something in place and get it moving. Quickly decide some goals, what we use for metrics, all of that. And for that, I would suggest that we create an ad hoc committee to do a deep dive on those things so we can act quickly on those. That would implement a 6-month cycle that Chuck would do a self-eval at the end of November. We would do a full evaluation meeting the first week of December. Those dates were included on that calendar, or that list of dates that went out with the packet. The other option is to take this option where we skip a year. So we would take these 6 months. I would still like to create, because we don't have our standing committees straightened out, we're not talking about those until next month, I would like to create an ad hoc committee still to address the evaluation options, where we want to go with goals, with metrics, particularly that section G on student growth. What do we want to put in place there? Do a deep dive on that, and we could take a number of months to do that. Get something in place and hit the ground running come January when we start a new cycle. If we chose to opt for skipping the evaluation this year, in the system, it's REP. I don't know what REP stands for. I don't remember. The system where this is all logged, where administrative.
CEPI.
Oh, I don't know.
It's a rep report.
Dr. Green, he referred to it as rep, so REP. So if we chose to skip an active evaluation for this 6 months, which would essentially equate to skipping it for 26-27 school year, the default when in the rep system, the default is to give an effective rating. That's based on the track record of the superintendent. So Chuck would have an effective rating for the 26-27 school year. And then starting in January, when we start our new evaluation cycle, the final that would happen in December of 27, that would apply to the 27-28 school year rating in the rep system. So we would be starting fresh with something in January. If we take the time, I think we could come up with some agreeable metrics, goals. I know those have been hot buttons in the past for the past couple years. Those are our big options to consider. And then related to that, once we know what we want to do with the next 6 months, if we can come to a consensus tonight on at least the next 6 months, we can get an ad hoc committee in place to determine the path forward, right? To what are our next steps if we're choosing option 1 or option 2? What are our next steps? What can that committee then come to the board with a recommendation to say, this is where we think we should go with the evaluation process? And in that, if we choose to option 2 to wait and skip this year, then we have time to potentially decide on an evaluation instrument. I believe having the few more months up until the end of the year to get this in place, that gives us more time to nail all of these things down. The goals, the benchmarks, the timeline, the key dates, all of those things that we're required to talk about. But I don't feel like we can get into that detail until we figure out what we want to do with this 6 months. We kind of put ourselves into a bit of a pickle by making the change that we did when we did it for the organizational meeting. I think it was the best timing we could do it, but now we need to figure out where to go from here.
Kristen, can I make this suggestion for whatever it's worth?
Sure.
The board's got a huge job ahead of itself, and that is figuring out what process they're going to use to find the next superintendent for Hartland Consolidated Schools. I would say spend your time immersed in that process, because really, as long as I'm superintendent through December, I still am under the obligation to keep moving the district and doing the job. And so it's really going to be here nor there to evaluate me in December, to be honest with you, for whatever it's worth, when you could be spending your time ensuring that you get the next proper fit for the school district.
Thank you for pointing that out. All of that I said was prepared before that announcement was made tonight. So
it was moot.
take that all with a grain of salt.
So I would agree. I think our time would be best served using the next 6 months to craft what we want to be the evaluation starting in January. There are going to be a lot of ad hoc committees, special meetings, hiring a new superintendent anyway. And then to evaluate our current superintendent, who is retiring at the end of the year, we'll just add another layer on top of already, having to hire a new superintendent and figure out what we want to be the evaluation tool. I think that's 3 big things that the board will have to tackle in the next 6 months. And I agree. I think it makes more sense for us to spend our time on the future, right? What's gonna be happening starting in January.
So, Mr. Hughes, if I may ask Mr. Hughes a question, is there any impact negatively towards you if the board did not give you a final evaluation?
No impact, because no evaluation equates to effective, which is consistent with my performance over the last, however many years. So.
Okay. So, yeah, so as long as Mr. Hughes isn't harmed in any way, I don't have an issue with focusing our efforts on the next 6 months. I guess one question I have for President Coleman, obviously didn't have a chance to ask you this before the meeting because didn't know this was coming, but does the board have to vote whether or not to accept a resignation? And if so, how does that play out with the timing of the resignation? So I think those were, maybe you can't answer it today because I don't think.
I certainly
Unless
cannot
you knew,
answer.
but I didn't know this was coming, but
Yeah.
I think those are some things we need to vet
Yep.
for next meeting.
Yeah, good point. Thank you. Mr. Scott?
Well, I had prepared quite a few remarks for the superintendent evaluation discussion, and now, based on tonight's announcement, unfortunately, they're going to have to go into the circular file and never be heard. So I agree with Mr. Hughes and Mr. Keller and Trustee Shaw that we should probably concentrate our efforts on the larger task at hand, or the 2 larger tasks at hand. Well, the search process, and then also kind of we've used the MASB tool now for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Right, have some good feedback, and we could use the next 6 months to really hone it in for next calendar year. So I would be supportive of that approach, given everything given our current position.
That's never happened.
Mr. Keller, remind me, you said, does the board need to vote to accept a resignation? And there was a second question or ancillary question there.
Yeah, I guess just trying to understand the timing. Can the board have some, if it accepts, can it have some influence on timing?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so we seem to have consensus at the table to move forward with option 2. So at least not all of my words were wasted. So given that, as I mentioned, I think it would behoove us to set up an ad hoc committee to look into things like, whether or not we can consider or should consider another tool, because we need to allow for training, all of that, because there are certain requirements, like what the tool can be, what it shouldn't be. There are tons of requirements that we have to provide, so, and meet. I guess I'm looking for volunteers, if there's anyone who would be interested in being on the ad hoc committee. I'm looking for 3 members, obviously to avoid a quorum, but I'd like to get a mix of people on the committee. But
Is it just to investigate the evaluation tool?
No, well, I think it would include that. I think we need to, and I bring up the tool because I know that there has been positive and negative responses and feelings about the tool that we've been using. So if we have the time, then yes, I think the committee can look at different options for an evaluation tool. I think they would also need to look at performance goals, and then also metrics, specifically that section G, like the student growth section that we struggled with this last cycle. So those are like the 3 primary things in my mind. I'm sure the committee will come up with a multitude of other issues that we will probably need to address. But I'm thankful that we have a couple months to be able to dive into that, and having some willing participants in that committee would be fabulous. So, Mr. Scott?
I would love to be part of that committee, yes.
Thank you.
I would be willing as well.
Okay.
If there's no third,
President
be
McCullough,
willing.
I'll volunteer to be
Okay.
part of the
All
committee.
right. Just for balance, Glenn. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. All right. Awesome. All right. So that's that. Let me see if there was anything else that we needed to cover. I did want to address somewhat related to the evaluation discussion. If you look at the spreadsheet that was included with, with the packet, with the list of all the meetings, my apologies for this not being very clear. If you were inside my brain, it made perfect sense. But obviously, the November 30th self-eval and the December 7th 6-month eval will go away. Those were included with the assumption that the board would be interested in pursuing that 6-month evaluation period, right? We've now since agreed not to do that. So I will let Dr. Green know that is not, he doesn't need to hold those dates on his calendar. So the June 7th 6-month eval that is on here, that's just a target date. Obviously, we can work that around with Rod Green's schedule if we're still using the MASB tool. That's just a target date for a 6-month eval, assuming that January start for the new cycle. So hopefully that answers the questions that a couple of you had regarding that list. I think that addresses everything that we need to cover for the superintendent evaluation. Any other thoughts or considerations? Okay. Moving on then, item 3B, policy 155 committees. And obviously we talked about this a little bit earlier. This was a policy that was brought up and talked about, but wasn't officially on the agenda at the policy committee meeting at the end of June. These are changes that were brought forward based on suggestions to refer to Neola language that is out there in their template, and then also some feedback from that board discussion or the policy committee meeting discussion that we had. I guess that's it. Who wants to start?
I can start. So I had, I think, three things that I had questions on. Which I was happy to see that there is a committee chair, which is chosen by the members of the committee. I think that's a good change, but I'm wondering, do we need any context around the election process of that chair? Does it need to be formal? Can we, is it like the organizational meeting, or is it some other election process to nominate the chair? My other comment is, I know that the president has the authority to approve members of the committees. My recommendation would be that the board adopt the final committee structure of all members. So we've got, A through Z committee, and these are the members. I think it would be helpful if the board approved the president's recommendations. And then the third item, which may be the more contentious issue, is around aligning with the, I guess, the elimination of recordings. I think the biggest issue that I had. I know when we passed the resolution, that was included. I think everything from the resolution besides the recording got pretty much incorporated, so I was happy to see that. But again, I think the board should talk more about whether or not it's appropriate to record committee meetings. I know, I'm glad to see at least they'll be available for the public, so I think that is a positive change that wasn't incorporated in the past, so I'm happy with that. But again, in the spirit of the resolution that we all adopted, I think we need to include that.
Greg, just to clarify, are you looking for just recordings specifically, or are you looking for live streaming? I mean, just to know what you're after.
I mean, my preference for consistency would be follow the same process that we do for regular meetings.
Okay, thanks. Any other comments? Contributions to this policy? Go ahead, Mr. Scott.
I'll echo some of what Treasurer Keller said, but yeah, I mean, one of the big changes we're making here, obviously, is changing this from one-way communication to actually a deliberative body. I mean, it specifically says in here, the committee shall perform the duties as assigned by the board, which may include deliberating, making recommendations, or taking other actions specifically authorized by the board. So the fact that we're including that, I think, means it is indeed a significant consequence for the public, and therefore should be live streamed and recorded. I know one good example, I think, Treasurer Keller and I were talking about earlier, if there's a curriculum committee and it's 11 o'clock on a Tuesday, that would by default mean probably no teachers could attend, and I'm sure they'd want to know what was going on, what was being said, and having that live stream or recording more in that instance would be vital. In today's world, this is very simply done. It doesn't require a lot of bells and whistles. They don't need to be as high production value as some of our board meetings. Just making sure that it's documented, available for the public, I think is vital, and I would definitely support that. Again, given the fact that these are going to be deliberative bodies. And then to dovetail on what Mr. Keller said as well, it does say taking other actions specifically authorized by the board. So that would indicate to me that there should be some board approval of the committee assignments, and that we could get into gray territory if it's just, I would say as a president, to protect yourself, probably want the board to offer their acceptance of the committees and their missions and their tasks, so that there's not a question later as to whether that was or was not within the purview of the committee, or was or were not specifically authorized by the board, as it states in the new policy.
Just to back up what Mr. Scott said, absolutely, in terms of ensuring that the committees are functioning as a true quorum of ideas and information and exchange of information as opposed to one way, I think that's absolutely key.
Agreed. And that was obviously a lot of the feedback that came back from that discussion that we had at the policy committee. So I was, that was intentional to include that here as well. Any other further discussion?
Can I just share, I think what we heard back from legal counsel, a question that was asked at the policy committee. I think I asked if there's a 3-person committee and another board member walks into the room, what triggers what happens at that point? And from my understanding from legal, that 4th board member or 5th, 6th, 7th have the right to be there as attending members of the public. They can speak at the call to public. They can attend. They cannot participate in the deliberation discussion at the
Right, exactly. They can be in the room, they can be present, but not participate in the meeting itself. Yeah, only the assigned committee members would participate in the deliberation or anything like that. But it wouldn't necessarily stop the meeting from happening if a 4th person showed up. Yep, thank you. Anything else on this one? All right, so we will revisit this at the next meeting for a discussion, or I'm sorry, for a vote. And I think that is it for discussion items. We have future meetings. Our next, this is now not proposed, but it is actually approved. August 10th will be the next regular meeting here, 6:30. And information items. Mr. Keller, you have one for us, I know.
Thank you. So I sent a note off today to kind of share with the team the new board advocate administrator group pairing. So I just wanted to kind of read those off. So I want to thank everybody that did email me back with your requests. So for community ed, I had Mr. Campbell. For Creekside, Ms. Shaw. Farms, Mr. Scott. Lakes, Ms. Coleman. Legacy is Ms. Custodio. The main high school is Mr. Campbell. Thank you for doing two. Orr Creek, Mr. Gogaleski. Around is Mr. Scott, and then Village is myself.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Keller. Any other information items to share? Okay.
Congratulations to Superintendent Hughes on making the decision to retire. Big day.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. All right. We are adjourned, 9:17. Thank you.
Take your thing.